Welcome to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Joyous conversations about what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about our one reality. You have nothing to fear. You are eternal and you are perfectly loved. Knowing the truth changes everything. Now, here's Roberta.
Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I'm so happy you're with us today. This is such an interesting time to be alive. The veil between worlds that has made communication so difficult over all the centuries is noticeably thinning now. We've been told by beings not in bodies, very elevated beings, that they've been gradually thinning that veil for more than 100 years. But it's really only within the past few decades that we actually can really notice a broad-based change. And one of the fruits of that change is this astonishing phenomenon of spouses who have been very close in life remaining close after one of them transitions. Widows have told me, and this, I can't believe this, but it's been several who have told me that now they're able to share physical, sexual relations with a departed spouse. I can't imagine. But anyway, that's what they're telling us. And some widowers now have found that their transitioned wives are still very much a part of their lives. In fact, we have two guests 2 weeks in a row who are going to talk about that extraordinary relationship that these men have with their wives who have graduated and gone ahead of them. What a blessing that is. What a wonderful, wonderful relationship that is. Today, our guest is for the second time, Ward E. Barcafer Jr. Ward's wife of 33 years was Suzette Shockley, who physically left the world in 2016, and she soon was communicating with Ward in really remarkable ways. He'll tell the stories. His recent book is called Conversations from Heaven, Advice and Guidance from My Beloved Wife, and the communications go on. So I gather that another book is forthcoming. It's important to say here that people at the Summerland level, which is levels, what we call levels 3 through 5, many sub-levels of each of them, of course, that's where pretty much all of our loved ones are. But people at that level don't know what's above them, really don't have very much of an understanding of it. And so they can make some mistakes. They have very little idea about what's happening above, and it isn't really important to them. And sometimes they'll guess. Now, that's not been the case with our wonderful friend Sue, but it has been with some, especially children who transitioned as children. They're trying to please. So whenever someone is communicating with you through a loved one, be careful about that. Know that it's possible for them to get some things wrong. But these wives are just trying to ease their husband's fears and to stay close to them until they also can go home. And they talk about the many wonderful, enjoyable details that are part of a happy Summerland life. They certainly know all about that. We are entering, my dear friends, an amazing new phase of the Earth's history now. What's happening so far is amazing, and there's really no telling where it's going. From now on, more and more people are going to live on Earth already knowing that their whole Earth lives are just a bad day in school. And very soon, we all will be going home to a snack of milk and cookies that is for the ages. Ward, I'm so glad you're here again. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Roberta. I appreciate being here.
Your story is a really beautiful one. Could you just tell people who maybe didn't hear your last interview, tell us a little about what happened with Sue and how this all got started?
Yes, I will. Well, what happened is, of course, like many people, I did not realize that there was anything other than death. Once we died on Earth, then we were dead. We just, that was all there was to it. And then all of a sudden, after a brain tumor operation, my wife, Sue, died. And I just, it was terrible grief. I just couldn't believe that she was gone, that I wouldn't see her again. Just absolutely terrible grief. And so the next morning after she passed away, I was sitting in my home office, and all of a sudden her voice came through my mind, which I now know is called telepathy. And she said, I want you to know that I'm not dead, that I'm alive in another realm. And so I will send you a sign that I'm alive maybe sooner than later. And so what happened, Roberta, is that evening I was sitting in my dining room doing some work, and Sue came through with the sign with flashing lights, the vaulted ceiling lights at the top of the ceiling started flashing on and off, like an ambulance lights or like a police car emergency lights. And I thought, well, what in the world is going on?
Gee.
So I turned the lights off and went to bed.
So you heard her voice in your mind. That was the first communication. Did it feel? I mean, people wonder about things like that. It must have been your imagination. Did you really know it was not your imagination?
Well, I was pretty sure it was not my imagination because Sue, she's got a very good vocabulary, very high vocabulary, and she speaks in a certain phraseology. And so I was pretty sure it was Sue. But at that point, Roberta, I did not know what to make of it until the lights started flashing that evening. And
yeah, wow.
And then the second night, the same thing happened. The lights started flashing, and then the next morning she said, "Ward, I want you to know that I flashed the lights to let you know that I'm not dead."
That is so beautiful. For people listening, you should know that when we transition, we drop our body. Of course, it's old and who cares about it anyway. And we are energy beings. And because we're energy beings, one of the things that we really have an easy time doing is affecting electricity. There are stories of, just in my own family, there was one particularly high-level individual in terms of development who he was flashing the TV, and so he irritated his children. He was turning the lights on and off on command. It was amazing what he could do, but it's easy for them because they are energy beings. So okay, talk more about Sue.
Well, one thing that happened, in fact, I've been involved in several other things in the last few months, and I haven't been communicating with Sue as much as I probably should be, because she says she's always with me, and she can do whatever else she wants to do as well. So she can be with me and then do whatever else she wants to do in her life, in her realm as well. And so I hadn't been really thinking very much about her the last few weeks. A couple of nights ago, I turned on my computer, and the first thing that flashed up on the screen was a picture of Sue in her wedding dress at our wedding. And I had not looked at that picture. It obviously was in my computer. I had not looked at that picture for probably 3 or 4 years. And all of a sudden it flashed on the screen from the depths of my computer. So she was telling me that she was still with me.
Yes. And hey, we're still married. You got to pay attention to me. Yeah, that's how it is to be a wife, pretty much. We want attention. Right. That's funny. It really is. You have a sense that you're still married. Does it feel like that same kind of relationship?
Yeah, it does, Roberta. It does. It seems like we're still married, and maybe Sue was in another room in the house and not in the same room that I'm in. But yeah, we're still married, and we still talk to each other. It's a fantastic, amazing thing that happens.
It really is. But people listening don't know how unusual this is. I hear from a number of people who have this kind of relationship, men and women both, with their spouses, and they feel matter of fact about it. But this is so extraordinary. This is within the past 10 years, literally, that we are hearing these stories. That's how thin the veil is. Do you have any tips for people who might want to get in touch with their loved ones if they have a spouse that's gone ahead? Or this came naturally to you, though, and she really was the leader of it, right?
Well, yeah, she said because I was in so much grief, terrible grief, that she wanted to come to tell me that she was not dead, that I should no longer be in grief. And so that's really what started the whole thing. Is she said, and other people were in grief as well. And so we were to write a book. She's going to communicate with me. We're to write a book and publish the book to let other people know that there is no such thing as death as we think of it. So that's what happened. We've now communicated with signs and manifestations and have actually, I've published 4 different books now through Balboa Press of Sue's Communications.
I tried to find them on Amazon, and it was a little confusing. But everyone will ask Ward to send me all of these book titles, and we'll put them in the program notes, so you'll have them there if you want to read more about it. This is such a fascinating story, though, and it feels like she's sort of like around the house, as you say. It feels unremarkable to you at this point, right?
Right. Yeah. About the books, Roberta, I found that going on Amazon, if you put in my full name, Ward Edward Barcafer Jr., all the books will show up.
Oh, okay.
But also, Roberta, we've got a website called signsfromsue.com.
Right. We'll give people that too.
Well, yeah, the signsfromsue.com has communications that I put on there every once in a while in the form of a blog. So there's new blogs going on that website from new communications every once in a while.
Well, that's great. All right. Well, everyone, that will be in the program notes too, so that you'll be able to learn more about this amazing relationship. But let's talk about her life now. What did she tell you about how it felt to first get there? Was she amazed? What did she notice?
Well, what she told me in communication, she said that once she was pronounced dead in the hospital, and the clinically dead, and then there was quiet. Everything was quiet, and an angel appeared, shimmering in white and gold. And then her father, who had passed away earlier, her dad appeared, and both of the angel and her father said they would help her over the threshold of death and into another world, a world without suffering. Then she says a door opened, and she went through it, and there was a myriad of angels, a lot of angels around her, and she was very confused. And then all of a sudden she felt, she saw shining lights and a very deep sense of joy and all-consuming love. And she, at that point, realized that there were angels around her, and beautiful music, beautiful, brilliant, lovely flowers. And then she realized that she'd come through from earth and gone into what she felt was an afterlife, heaven.
And so and that's what happens, everyone. We are as clueless when we get out of our bodies at the end of our lives as we were when we get out of our mothers at the start of life. We have no idea what's going on. So fortunately, our loved ones and angels in some cases will come and help us to go home. And that's exactly what happened here. But was she surprised that it was relatively solid there? It was a place?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in fact, the amazing thing about it, Roberta, this realm, which we call heaven, this realm, this new world, is just as solid and as firm as our earth world.
Right.
It's just amazing that it's just like being on earth, only in a much more beautiful environment.
Yes, it astonishes a lot of people to find out that right in the same place is something equally solid. And it's a whole new beautiful world. And the difference is it's sort of like everything about it is good, whereas here we have a distinctly mixed bag. But one way to think about it is as if it's like changing channels. You know, when you're watching channel 5, everything is as real as it could be on channel 5. You're used to that. And then you turn to channel 6 or channel 7, it's almost in the same place, almost at the same vibration, but it's a whole new solid, there's no mixing. It's a new solid reality. And that's exactly what it's like when we die. It's very much like changing channels.
What it is, Roberta, is a question of vibrations, of lower vibrations and higher vibrations.
I'm sorry, please say that again, the start of it.
Well, it's it's a question of vibrations.
Yes. Oh, yes, exactly. That's right. And just as your TV's channels are a question of vibration, one is a little higher than the other. It's the same exact phenomenon, but it is completely real and completely solid. In fact, many of the people who are there tell us that's reality and this